Hello, I'm going to be working with you on the Symphony Viola Excerpt. This excerpt is from the fourth movement of Berlioz's fantastic work, Symphonie Fantastique. I have been obsessed with this symphony since I was in high school. I encourage you to read up all about it and to listen to it, and I think it will capture your imagination as much as it has mine. So this fourth movement is also titled March to the Scaffold. So our protagonist of the symphony, Berlioz, he is being marched to the guillotine. And so even though this particular excerpt doesn't necessarily sound too much like a march, that's what's going on in the entirety of the movement. So there's lots of challenges in this excerpt, as I'm sure you know because you've been working on it and practicing it. So one of the challenges is finding a good fingering for the triplets. Now, I am not here to tell you what fingering that you should do. You should do first and foremost what your own private teacher has instructed you to do, and also what feels good to you and what will sound clean. There are many different options, from hybrids of first and second position to some people I know do this all in first position, well, except for the part that they need to shift up to third for just a couple of notes. But there's many different ways to do it. So I would encourage you to practice this slowly. Obviously, hopefully you really do practice slowly to figure out what fingerings will work. And then sometimes under pressure, we find that certain fingerings don't quite work out when we are putting it up to tempo. So definitely record yourself many times and just use your ears and listen to what fingering sounds the cleanest, and I would go with that one. But one of the things I love to suggest when it comes to passage work like this is to practice in rhythms. And I don't just say that just to hear myself say the words. Practice it in rhythms over and over again. It is a tried and true practice technique that many teachers recommend, and I encourage you to do it. So with triplets like this, you have as many rhythms as you can think of in your head at your disposal, but you could also just use three easy ones to kind of guide your practice routine. So the first would be long, short, short, long, short, short. So you would practice like this. And start off slow, maybe slower than that, and definitely build up the rhythms faster and faster. So after you do long, short, short, long, short, short, I always get this one, short, long, short, short, long, short, short. So that one will sound like this. And so then the third rhythm that you would do would be short, short, long, short, short, long. And so the reason why you would torture yourself with doing these rhythms is because it gives each of your fingers a time to shine and helps your brain kind of latch on to that finger, that note, all of those kind of things, and to just elevate yourself out of just playing it the way that it looks on the page. So please practice this in rhythms. And another way that you can practice this passage at the beginning and also around measure 97 would be just to make every single note a triplet. Just to give yourself time to really make the fingering that you've chosen a part of your DNA. So we talked about practicing in rhythms and also putting a triplet rhythm on every single note for those. Now, depending on what fingering that you choose, you can have a lot of string crossings in this. And even no matter what fingering you choose, there's definitely string crossings to navigate. And another practice technique that I really highly encourage, it really works, is to say cross whenever you have a string crossing to train your brain. So the reason why that works is because when you say cross out loud, it goes into your ear and reinforces doubly into your brain what you were doing at the moment that you say it. And so it sort of is melding your subconscious and conscious efforts. And I really encourage you to say cross. You might feel silly saying it, but it can really, really make a big difference in the long run. So, cross, 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 cross. So try it at home, and also try to get faster and faster until you just can't possibly say cross anymore. It gets kind of fun too, but I think that will really help amp up your you being successful on these triplets for sure. So in the second line of this excerpt, there's some chords. You can play them if you can get them really in tune. I definitely would maybe err on the side of just playing the top line for this to sound as clean as possible. And plus that's pretty good orchestral section playing hygiene, is to divide the chords. And so, but if you can certainly get them in tune and want to try that, you will not be penalized for playing the chords, nor will you be penalized for not playing them. But that is for you and your teacher to discuss. So this in measure 95, we have an up bow slur with a crescendo. So not only do we want to make sure that we accurately count the rests into this, but that we really are starting from the string and that we've got a good pronation, or our first finger really digging in. So we got a good start to that slur. And I, in my part, have put an accent over the B natural. Just because that B natural falls on the strong second beat of the measure, yada-da-da-da-da-da-dum, and it will give me a little bit more momentum into that slur to really kind of make it as rhythmic as possible. This would be another small section to do some rhythms on, just to make sure that it doesn't sound too slurpy, but really clean this run. So the last two measures of this excerpt really feel awkward. Maybe it's just me, but the reason why it feels awkward is because this whole excerpt up until these last two measures have been really triplet driven. So if this is 80 to the half note, da, 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 with our triplets, then our 16th notes are really, really fast. So these couple of measures will really require your attention to clean up. And one of the ways I wanted to suggest for you to practice this was to voice it. And what I mean by voicing is by taking our brain and kind of moving where in the measure that we kind of feel not the pulse, but like where we're bringing our attention to. And so I'm going to put a huge pause where I feel like that the voicing will be, and that I think that can help organize your bow really well. So I'm going to start right on the mezzo forte in measure 101, showing you voicing. So did you see what I did there? Each slur was its own, we ended after each slur. Yada, ba-ba-bada, ba-ba-bada. And I think that for some reason will help organize our bows better. I'll do it a little faster with a little bit less of a pause. And up to tempo. That can really kind of help us not feel too tense in this area for sure, but it helps give us a little bit to lean on those slurs whenever we get to them. And also, please take your pencils and like circle the mezzo forte that's in measure 101, because that is a subito mezzo forte. We are fortissimo right up until that point. So another way that you can work on making a really good subito dynamic is to practice the part right before the dynamic change, putting again another pause, feeling the release and tension in your body, and then playing the first few notes of the new dynamic marking. So I'll play the third and fourth beats of measure 100 to show you what I mean. I'll do it again. And then we can add it together. And so that there's not anything fancy that I'm doing with my bow. I'm just literally feeling that release of tension, that small kind of everything is gone from my body. And I rehearsed that many times to bring that out. Okay, so these aren't something that you would just do. You wouldn't do your rhythms or this tension release thing or the voicing just like a couple of times one day before your audition. I would add it into your practice routine every day, just how an athlete would do different circuit training, different kinds of things to besides what their main sport is, to exercise all parts of their bodies. So okay, so without further ado, I am going to perform the symphony excerpt for you.